Here's another example of why Ghana, number one, is someplace you should consider visiting. And it's also an example of bridging the gap. In 2018, I took my first trip to Ghana and didn't know what to expect, but it's clearly changed my life. I've been to 9 different African countries, getting ready to add 2 more countries to the list, but it all started in Ghana. And here is one lady's story and why it moved her to move. Take a look.
We begin this hour with the story of an African country opening its arms to Black Americans. Ghana's tourism minister began encouraging African Americans to move there in 2019. As Black Lives Matters protests erupted, she said, quote, "You don't have to stay where you're not wanted." Deborah Patta spent time with one American who chose to make Ghana her home.
Ghana's Elmina Castle occupies a dark place in America's history. This used to be a central trading hub where African people from across the continent were bought and sold into slavery. Now, as the U.S. continues to confront its racist past, Ghana is turning that history upside down and welcoming Black Americans back home.
You know, I was living what people would consider the American dream. I was educated, professional, had friends. I was a socialite, but I never felt safe.
Sonjai Davis was the epitome of Washington cool. Connected, successful, a therapist trained to deal with emotional health, and yet she was constantly looking over her shoulder.
There is just so much unrest.
Davis believes trauma is embedded in her DNA, from the transatlantic slave trade to the Tulsa race massacre in 1921, where some of her family were displaced.
It was beginning to take an emotional and psychological toll on me.
The trauma of racism?
It's the trauma. So my immediate thought all the time was, oh my gosh, you know, what if a police officer pulls me over? Am I going to be physically safe? Am I going to come out of it alive?
Then George Floyd was murdered at the hands of a police officer, sparking global outrage that demanded this Black life had to matter.
I was barely holding on. I could feel myself nearing a nervous breakdown. And that's why I made the decision that I had to get out of there.
She had visited Ghana in 2019 during the government's Year of Return campaign, marking 4 centuries after the first slave ship reached Virginia. It attracted a record number of tourists, aiming to convert visitors into residents.
George Floyd's name over there.
Head of the African Diaspora Forum, Erica Bennett, said after the death of George Floyd, they were inundated with inquiries.
Every day we get at least, and this is no exaggeration, at least 300 people saying, how can we relocate to Ghana?
About 5,000 African Americans have made the trip back to Ghana and stayed.
Home is not a place. It's how you feel where you are, the feeling of belonging, the feeling of welcome, and a sense of freedom.
And so, just over a year ago, Sonjai Davis traded her DC home for that sense of freedom. It felt like a symbol for 2020. Mm-hmm. You know, I can't breathe, George Floyd said, and COVID, people battling, and here you are, able to breathe.
No, I'm breathing, yeah, very much so. Okay.
Her therapy practice is now all online, and while she misses the convenience of modern American life, she's no longer looking over her shoulder.
I feel loved, I feel supported, I feel regarded, I feel like I matter. I don't feel like I'm looked at for the color of my skin. I'm just a person here.
That must be liberating.
Liberating. That is just the utopia of emotion. It feels really good.
And do you feel a connection to Ghana in terms of the historical connection?
It's interesting you ask that question because I have been trying to muster up the ability to go back to the slave castle.
Slave castles on Ghana's Cape Coast are where many Black Americans are able to trace the beginning of that awful journey made by their enslaved ancestors.
I thought I was ready. And walking into the dungeon I couldn't breathe, but I know I feel like I need to go again.
That was over a year ago. Today, she's ready to try again. Walking in the shadow of horror, old pain is palpably present here. In these God-forsaken dungeons, captured slaves perished. Only a third made it out alive. This sliver of light facing the Atlantic, their last glimpse of home before being pushed onto ships never to return. In all likelihood, your ancestors passed through here.
It's heavy. It's really heavy, Deborah. You feel it, though.
And it's made her regard America differently.
As Black Americans, we're starting to come to the realization of our place in America. We're coming to understand that America was really never meant for us to be there as free people.
In a sense, that's why you left America. It's to reclaim yourself.
Exactly, exactly. So I know that I am in control of myself, my destiny, my dreams, and everything that I want for myself and that my ancestors wanted for me.
And on a recent trip back to Tulsa, she told them.
I went to the cemetery and told them, hey, you know, I made it out of here. I made it back. I'm sorry. I made it back. I got out of here.
It's brave.
Yeah.
For CBS Mornings, Deborah Patter, Elmina, Ghana.
Deborah Patta, thank you. Very powerful story. I've never been to Ghana, and I start looking at that piece. I want to go. I don't know anybody, any person of color that hasn't had an uncomfortable encounter at some point in your life in this country because of the color of your skin. That said, for me, I just can't imagine for myself living anywhere else, but I understand what she's saying and how she's feeling.
No doubt. Well, as you pursue your piece of the American dream, if that comes at the cost of peace of mind, oftentimes you start to think about where else you could live. And for a Black man in America, you try to find out where your roots are. And I do feel like even if you feel like returning to Ghana isn't for you, finding out your roots is very important because in order to know where you want to go, you have to know where you've been.
You have to know your past.
That's for sure.
Unfortunately, so many people really don't know their past or understand history.
I mean,
that's something we need to change too.
The idea of returning has been controversial since literally the days of Abe Lincoln.
No doubt.
And what to do. I think it's an indictment of America in 2021 that there are 5,000 Black Americans who've already gone back to Ghana because they don't feel comfortable here. What are we doing wrong that we don't make them feel welcome in this country?
For sure.
But it'll be interesting to see. You can understand how comforting and different it would be to go from a place where you are a Black face among non-Black faces to be one of all, of many.
I understood what she was saying. And it was interesting, 300 calls a day for people asking about Ghana.
And that's what we're about here at Maximum Impact. We are bridging the gap. And if you would like to have your own experience in Ghana or one of the other African countries that we service, be sure to check out MaximumImpactTravel.com. And what I say, before you move, at least visit and see for yourself.
Open up your eyes and see all the fun and mystery. Take an African adventure with Darren and Destiny. From the mountains to the shore, so many things to explore. Take an African adventure with Darren and Destiny.
The Adventures of Darren and Destiny. And Darren and Destiny are twin brother and sister, and you go on their adventures throughout the African diaspora, meaning so African diaspora destinations, primarily focused in Africa, but we go to South America, we're going to go to the Caribbean. Their first book is going to take you to Ghana, and then we're going to go on a safari, and from there we're going to go to Ethiopia, and then we go to Salvador, Brazil. And what the goal is to be able to inspire curiosity in the continent of Africa, in our children from a very young age, and to really tell a more accurate story. Most of our children are exposed to negative images, late night infomercials about how bad things are, everybody's sick, everybody's poor, everyone's uneducated, but that's simply not true. So what Darren and Destiny and their family do is they go to different African destinations. They are learning about these different places. You're beginning to see positive images, but still telling the truth. I mean, that's the important thing, to tell the truth about some of the things that have occurred. But it's all done on our children's level so they begin to understand it. And it begins to pique their curiosity. They begin to learn more. And hopefully one day they will want to explore and visit the continent of Africa and its many countries. There's just so much that Darren and Destiny are able to do, and as they're doing it, it's like they begin to open the minds of a new generation, and they don't get bombarded and indoctrinated with negativity. They're actually able to see positivity and inspiring images and messages about the African diaspora, as well as those who are still indigenous to the continent of Africa, and they begin to learn more and just see things differently. So I'm excited about introducing the adventures of Darren and Destiny.